Hi everyone, welcome to the FP2 Certificate Module video tutorial. The Certificate Module is a new feature that was added to everyone's FP2 system in late April. Anyone who has the Personnel module will have the Certificates module added automatically to their software. In this tutorial we will cover firefighter reminders and special training, setting up certificate types, creating certificate records, using certificate reminders, and building certificate reports. In earlier versions of FP2, there were two sections in the personnel record that were used to track certification information. The Reminders tab allowed you to create a set of recurring certifications that generated reminders for you. The Special Training section of the Attendance tab allowed you to document training and certification that firefighters completed outside of the internal department training sessions. In the Certificates module, we've merged these two sections and standardized how things work. So if you're looking for the Special Training or the Firefighter Reminder sections, everything that was entered in those areas has now been moved to the Certificate module. Before you start adding certification records, you need to set up your certificate types. To do this, go to the Maintenance Certificates window. The section headers from your old Firefighter Reminder module and your special training entries will be populated here automatically, but you can also add any additional certifications that you'd like to track. To add a new certification, go to the green plus button to add a new record and enter the title of the certification into the title field, and optionally add a description of the certification in the description. If this is an expiring certificate, enter the certification expiry period in months in the recertification field. If you'd like to view reminders before the due date, enter the number of advance months of notice that you'd like to get in the notice field. If the certification is mandatory, that is, an active member of the department must have this certification, then turn on the mandatory checkbox. This will activate a reminder if a member does not have this certification entered. The Show Grade, Show Percent lets you toggle per attendee grades or percentage tracking. Once the certificate types are set up, you can start to add certification records. Click on the Certificates icon on the home page to open the Certificate List window. This page is used to search for certification records and to create new certification records. The certificate title parameter allows you to search by certificate type, using the list you created when setting up your certificates. Certificate records normally have a begin and completion date, and the completion date parameter lets you search based on this date. Searching for sessions with no completion date can be helpful if you are tracking that someone has started an extended certification but have not yet completed it. Searching under the Recertify by date range lets you find all expiring certifications that need to be renewed within a selected time period. This year and next quarter can be useful date ranges here. The Instructor List lets you search by certification instructors, and this can include both your training instructor entries and additional certificate instructors. To create a new certificate record, click on the green plus button on the right-hand side of the Certificate List window. Select a certificate type from the certificate drop-down list. For this example, we'll choose CPR AED. The begin date defaults to the current date, and you'll commonly enter both a begin date and a completion date. For a standard 2-day course, we'll put in a completion day the day after the start date, and we'll put in 14 hours for the length. Hours entered in the length period will flow into the Personnel Hours Worked report, which is used to calculate hours for the federal tax credit. The instructor drop-down is pre-populated with the training instructor list from your officer records. But if you want to add additional instructors without adding officer records, you can select the other option. This will display an additional drop-down list that you can build specifically for certificate instructors. You can populate this with things like St. Clair College or Red Cross. After we've selected instructor, we can select the people who attended the certification session. You can grab as many members of the department as you'd like. In some cases, it might only be one person, but in this case, we'll add a number of people. The notes field can be used to add additional information about the certification session. Once a certificate record has been created, that certification information, along with the event, will be transferred over to the personnel record. So when we look on the Attendance tab in the Certificates section, we'll see all the certificates that each person has been assigned and a list of all the times that those certificates have been completed. Double-clicking on the certificates in the lower section will bring up the record that opened the certification. For mandatory or recurring certificates, FP2 will create some reminders automatically. A mandatory certificate will automatically create a reminder for each personnel record in the program, either existing or newly added. The reminder date is based on the hire date of the personnel record. If the person is added to a certificate record for the mandatory type, then the reminder will be cleared. A good example of using a mandatory certificate is the driving certification. This allows you to easily track which members have not yet completed each vehicle driving certification. For a recurring certificate, FP2 creates reminders after a firefighter is added to a certificate record of that type. First aid is a good example of a recurring certificate. The reminders for each person identify the recertification date based on the period that you selected in the certification setup. Again, adding personnel to another certificate of this type, which is usually done when they recertify, will update the reminder for that person, rolling it forward. If a member no longer requires a particular certification, or has a more advanced certification that overrides that one, say getting a paramedic certification for example, just dismiss the reminder for the person with that certification using the right-click and dismiss function. Remember, some certifications can be both mandatory and recurring, first aid or CPR, for example. There are several different reports on certificates available. The certificate details report can be printed directly from the certificate record using the print option. This report shows information about the certificate event, including time, attendees, and results. The certificate summary report can be printed directly from the certificate list window. It prints a copy of the certificate details report for each certificate record in the current search. Since you can search for certificate records by certificate type, this can be a very helpful report if you want to see all the times that a course like CPR has been put on. Another set of reports on certificates is available from the personnel list window. The certificate attendees report from the print button at the top of the list allows you to select a specific certificate type and see all personnel who have completed that certificate organized by date. You can also add a ID and station columns to the printed report. In the certificate section on the management list window, the completed certificate report shows a list of all certificates completed by each person in the current search list, with certificates organized by date completed. You can also run this report for a single certificate type if you prefer. The out-of-date certificates report from the same menu allows you to pick a specific date, then shows any recurring certifications that are out of date for each person as of the date that you've selected. The results show the certificates, the name, and the due date and recertification date for each out-of-date certification. Finally, certificate hours flow into the hours worked and hours worked details reports, which can be used to track the calculate hours for the federal tax credit. Thank you for taking the time to view the FP2 certificate video tutorial. If you have any other questions about the certificate module, please contact Ingenious Software.